You are listening to the Air Raid Hour with host Judge Mathis, dog, Tilt Money, dog, presented by the fine folks over at the Cover One Sports Network, dogs. Bills Mafia, let's go!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Air Raid Hour pregame show, the first pregame show of the regular season, the NFL Thursday night kickoff. It's finally here. If at any point during the show I pass out, it's fine. Just let me be. I told my wife to come in and check on me every 5 minutes, splash some water on my face if I pass out. But my name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. Joined, as always, by my co-host Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. Together, we are the Bills guys, presented by Cover One and Picasso's Pizza. First pregame of the season. Football is back. Dave, how are we feeling?
I kept myself busy at work today as much as I could to try to make the time pass by faster. In a way, it's super exciting because we're the first game of the year. In another way, it was always kind of nice to, watch the first game of the year and be a little bit stress-free, but you wouldn't want it any other way. Bills opening the 2022 NFL season against the defending Super Bowl champs, big bad Los Angeles against small market Buffalo. What a great storyline. And I'm not a big fan of LA to begin with as a city. So, hey, let's go and rock LA.
Based on what I've been seeing on social media, the Bills could have a home game.
That's what it seems like.
When the poor Rams, they're gonna sit there and they're gonna get their rings tonight. And it always seems like more when you see it on social media and you see like the swarms coming to the stadium. But I'd say probably 70-30 Rams Bills fans tonight. It wouldn't shock me if they were pushing 35% of the fan base in that stadium. It'll be really nice if maybe like at some point the Rams have to like go to a silent count because Bills Mafia is so loud. You always love seeing Bills Mafia out the night before these big road games. So that was awesome to see on social media last night. Speaking of Bills Mafia, we have our 26 shirts giveaway. We said, hey, anyone who super chatted between the beginning of training camp and last show was eligible for our 26 shirts giveaway. And we have a winner. That winner is the person who had the most tickets in the raffle. Your boy Lettuce is the winner of our 26 shirts giveaway. So your boy, if you're watching right now, shoot us a DM on Twitter. If not, I'll just reach out to you on Twitter. We'll get your size. We'll get the shirt you want, and we'll make sure to get you hooked up with a 26 shirt. So kudos to you and congratulations to your boy Lettuce. He doesn't get his punter in this game, but he gets a 26 shirt. And of course, we are always brought to you by Picasso's Pizza. 4 great locations in Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Buffalo Pizza since 1980. Hand-cut, cup and char pepperonis. You can order online at picassospizza.net. And if you're an out-of-towner like Dave and I, you can even get it mailed to your home for your Bills game festivities. It's just as good as getting it fresh from the restaurant. Again, that is picassospizza.net.
I brought some. I'm making some right after this for the game. And how about this comment right here?
Yeah.
Kevin Hurley is at SoFi right now. Says 60-40 Bills fans right now. It's still early.
Rams fans, right? It's LA. It's that LA social scene. They always got to be fashionably late. So they probably stroll in like what? Middle of the first quarter, second quarter.
Yeah. Right? Or maybe just like a few minutes before game time, see the rings,
Yeah. Anyway, the inactive list was on a lot of people's minds in the comments section. Still haven't gotten the Rams inactive list. Maybe you can look while I'm sort of going through the Bills inactive list. And I'll tell you what, Khalil Shakir is the big name on the inactive list for the Buffalo Bills, the guy who's been returning punts all preseason. So that's a conversation that we're going to have. Cam Lewis, Tommy Doyle, that's an injury related. Quentin Morris, that's injury related. And Shaq Lawson, the Buffalo Bills, only going with 8 defensive linemen tonight against the LA Rams. 7 if you count Von Miller as a linebacker, which nobody does. My first thought is it's disappointing the Buffalo Bills feel the need to carry 6 linebackers. I don't get it, like, personally. maybe when Quentin Morris is back, he's a little bit more athletic than Tommy Sweeney. They can inactivate Tommy Sweeney and a linebacker, and Quentin Morris can do a little bit of that special team stuff. But Balon Spector being active, it's the biggest surprise to Jason, and it's the biggest surprise to me as well. Seeing Shaq Lawson and Khalil Shakir on that inactive list to carry a number of linebackers who are only going to play special teams, that's a little disappointing. What are your thoughts on that?
Obviously, Shakir is the biggest surprise. I had kind of thought on our Monday show that there was a chance Lawson would be inactive, so I'm not really super surprised at that one. But obviously, Shakir being inactive over a guy like Crowder or even a sixth linebacker, like you mentioned, that to me is a little bit surprising. So whether or not it was Crowder or Shakir, the fact is they wanted to dress six linebackers for this game, and they must be really impressed with Balon Spector's ability on special teams to have him up as a sixth linebacker. Because if you recall, in the past, when Andre Smith was on this roster, there were a lot of games in the past where he was a game day inactive, and they didn't dress that sixth linebacker in years past. So I guess they felt for the first game of the year, Shakir being a rookie, maybe they just decided that they were going to try to keep special teams as sound as possible. Maybe they think special teams is something that could be an X factor in this game. I don't know how that plays into what Balon Spector is going to do, but we will see. It is surprising, but maybe it also clues us in a little bit onto what the Bills are going to do offensively, and we're going to get to that in a second. But obviously, Shakir, the biggest surprise, inactive. I'm not terribly surprised at Lawson being inactive.
So here's the question now. So Pops Mafia comes in and says, is Micah Hyde the punt returner? So does Little Dirty return punts? Where do you think the Bills go? Because they have Jamison Crowder now. And they have Jamison Crowder and they have Isaiah McKenzie. Maybe they can give Isaiah McKenzie more breathers, allow him to play teams. Do they trust him to play both special teams, kick and punt return? Do we see James Cook returning kicks? Do we see Jamison Crowder returning punts? There's a whole bunch of ways we can go with this. And it's interesting because in preseason, we thought it was all wrapped up and it was going to be Khalil Shakir, but here he is inactive week one. Best guess. I mean, I can go online. I can scroll Twitter to see maybe if Joe B, who's really on top of things today, can get a look-see at who's maybe returning, fielding the punts in warmups. But who do you think it's going to be returning punts when the Rams go to punt the ball today?
Well, I will say this. Given that Isaiah McKenzie has been playing with the ones in the slot all summer, all training camp, and in the limited preseason action, I would not figure he would be back there maybe as the number one option on punt returns and kick returns. I would imagine it would be Jamison Crowder on punt returns, given that he is active tonight. And it would not surprise me if James Cook was doing the kick returns. Like we've said in the past, kick returns are they're kind of almost irrelevant in today's NFL. Either, people aren't returning the kicks. The kickers are kicking them through the end zone. You don't even have to field the kick anymore. If it lands in the end zone, you get it at the 25 now as opposed to the 20. So kick returns, I don't really think it matters too much who the Bills put back there, because I wouldn't expect there to be a ton of kick returns taken out in this game. But for punt returns, I would imagine it would be Jamison Crowder. That would be my best educated guess if they really wanted to keep Isaiah sort of out of harm's way on punt returns and let him focus more on the offense. I mean, in years past, it didn't matter as much because Cole Beasley was the starting slot and you could put McKenzie back there. But now with him being the starting, appearing to be the starting slot receiver, then it would make sense to me with how the Bills have operated in the past that it would be Crowder.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Jamison Crowder as well, but it'll be super interesting. Jason M coming in with a little cover one pass teaser. We just saw two running backs set with Motor and Cook. Bills emptied it out and Allen hit Cook in the slot option route. Cook is getting a lot of routes and looks like he's getting a lot of slot receiver routes so far in warmup. So that begs the next question. What were the Bills not showing us? What were they doing on the days where the media wasn't allowed into practice? What were they doing once we got closer to the season and the media had to leave like 15 minutes into practice, or they had to put their cell phones away or weren't allowed to tweet or etc. What were they doing? What were they doing behind the scenes to sort of surprise some opponents like the Rams in week 1. That'll be super interesting to see what wrinkles are added to this offense. But speaking of one pass, if you haven't already, make sure you're getting on the Cover One pass. It's $57 a year, just exclusive premium Cover One content. Just the other day, Dawson Knox signed his extension. Within like 20 minutes, Greg Tomsett was breaking it all down for Cover One premium subscribers. You get exclusive members only content, in-depth analysis, including scheme, play, and player breakdowns, scouting reports, analytics, articles that only you, a Cover One premium subscriber, gets, access to the Cover One Slack channel where we have some awesome conversations. And of course, you get a sweet t-shirt and a decal as well. So if you haven't already, head on over to cover1.football and sign up for your Cover One pass. All right. The Rams inactives are out, and there's a couple interesting names. Van Jefferson, we expected due to injury.
Yep.
Their other inactives are Darion Kendrick, cornerback, Bryce Perkins, quarterback, Jake Gervasi, linebacker, and Lance McCutcheon, another wide receiver. So they're rolling with 5 wide receivers. I want to get to the wide receivers in a moment, but Bryce Perkins, I've been watching a lot of, oddly enough, I've been being on the West Coast. I've been watching a lot of Rams preseason games. Like after my wife falls asleep, I turn on the NFL Network and the Rams were just always on. Bryce Perkins blew up the preseason. Looked like Brad Smith out there on the football field. I almost thought that he could possibly be a new wrinkle to the Rams offense, and they might try some wildcat stuff, or they might try to use him as a receiver, a returner, just try to get him involved. But it appears like if that's in their plans, they're holding it for later on in the season with Bryce Perkins being inactive. But the other name that sort of stuck out to me was Lance McCutcheon, because if you look at the depth chart with Van Jefferson out, it's Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Ben Skowronek, Tutu Atwell, the former second-round pick who was invisible last year and then injured, and Brandon Powell, the former Buffalo Bill, who's mostly a return specialist. So Cooper Kupp is the slot. Allen Robinson is the X. Who's the Z? Is it Ben Skowronek? Is it Tutu Atwell? Is it Brandon Powell? Does Cooper Kupp do more stuff on the outside and Tutu Atwell works the slot? It's going to be really interesting to see what the Rams decide to do when they go 11 personnel, or this could be a game where the Rams decide to go a lot of heavy, like 12 personnel, and try to do a lot of that stuff and get Teron Johnson off the football field. What are your thoughts on the Rams receiving depth after Kupp and Robinson and what they're going to do on offense?
I would expect Skowronek to be the fill-in for Van Jefferson. I think a couple people had kind of reported that today. Some beat reporters from LA were saying to keep an eye on him. He's a 6'3", big bodied guy. I mean, he's, 7th round pick from a year ago, but I would expect it to be Skowronek, and, maybe Tutu Atwell mixes in for a few gadgety type things. And obviously, he was a guy we paid a lot of attention to in the pre-draft process last year with that sort of quick twitch speed, not the biggest guy, obviously, but has some ability. It wouldn't surprise me if the Rams went a little heavier, but I also know that, Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson both have kind of just ramped up through the latter stages of training camp to full practices, right? So, Cam Akers obviously came back at the end of last season off that Achilles. Darrell Henderson looked pretty good at the end of last season when he played, but they're both, they both practiced in full, and I get that, and they're not on the injury report, but maybe the Rams' plan is to kind of like split the load between those two and kind of see who has the hot hand in that situation, because I do think that it doesn't really matter to me the depth of the Rams receiving core tonight, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a huge focus on Cooper Kupp and a huge focus on Allen Robinson. And the other thing that we haven't even mentioned, in a guy who's kind of maybe been the forgotten man in the Rams receiving core because of all this sort of attention that Cooper Kupp's gotten, the addition of Allen Robinson, is Tyler Higbee at tight end. The Bills, obviously last year they were better, but have historically not been great against tight ends. We saw, how much damage Kelsey did to us in the playoffs a year ago. So Tyler Higbee would be another name I'd keep my eye on, and he could be someone that they use in some of the heavy packages where they're not tipping their hand, and he's a receiver in those situations, and maybe they do test a guy like Terrell Bernard if he's on the field in those situations, see how he really does handle himself in pass coverage. So Tyler Higbee would be another name I'd keep my eye on if I was the Bills and kind of trying to figure out this Rams offense.
Yeah, so let's start with the Bills defense versus the Rams offense, since we're already sort of onto this conversation here.
Yep.
Let's just do a quick run through the players who are expected to contribute offensively. Matt Stafford is obviously the quarterback. Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson are the 1A, 1B running backs, but I've been hearing a lot about Kyren Williams. He sat out the preseason, not because of injuries, but because Sean McVay expects to utilize a guy like Kyren Williams. So we're talking about James Cook a ton for the Bills offense. Kyren Williams could be playing a similar role for the LA Rams, slot receiver, pass catcher out of the backfield, really good pass blocker. So Kyren Williams could end up being the guy who gets the most carries today and really shocks people. I think he'll be involved in the Rams offense in some way, shape, or form. Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp are the two alpha receivers. Then you got Ben Skowronek, Tutu Atwell, Brandon Powell. Tyler Higbee, you just mentioned, is their tight end. Bryce Hopkins will come in 12 personnel situations. They don't have a fullback. They don't have a third tight end. So guys like maybe a heavier guy like Ben Skowronek, they like to use wide receivers to chip and things of that nature in the running game. The offensive line left to right is Joe Noteboom, David Edwards, Brian Allen. Due to injury, it's Coleman Shelton, who started 2 games last year at right guard, and then Rob Havenstein, who just got an extension today at right tackle. It seems pretty obvious, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What scares you the most about this LA Rams offense?
Well, it's Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, and Cooper Kupp at the top of the list, right? And Taron Johnson's going to have his hands full with Cooper Kupp, but Allen Robinson on the outside, guys like Kaiir Elam and Christian Benford and Dane Jackson, whoever it ends up being, matched up with Allen Robinson, are going to have their hands full with him. A perennially underappreciated and maybe undervalued talent in this league, going all the way back to his days with Jacksonville. Allen Robinson's going to be a problem for opposing teams this year, and not just the Bills tonight, but like all year. That tandem of Kupp and Robinson is not the same type of tandem like they had with Kupp and Woods, right? I mean, Woods it was a very good player, but he didn't bring the level, the receiving chops, like the dynamic receiving chops, I should say, because Robert Woods was a great receiver, but the dynamic receiving chops that an Allen Robinson brings with the length and the down the field ability to stretch the field. So to me, that's number one, right? Yeah. Stafford's coming into this game. There was much to make about his elbow situation in the offseason, but they reported today, like his elbow is in a better spot today than it was a year ago. Don't expect there to be any issues with Matthew Stafford throwing the ball. So knowing that, knowing his chemistry with Kupp, knowing his propensity and ability to throw the ball down the field on the outside, on the boundary, I mean, Kupp and Robinson are the top of the list of what you should be scared of most if you're the Bills defense.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this, Sarah Christine comes in and says, I'm not afraid of the Rams offense. I just wish we had Trey. That's a big ask of 2 rookie corners. And what really stuck out to me, reading a number of the pregame articles and things of that nature heading into this game was Joe B's article on The Athletic, where he talked about Robinson and Kupp and how the Rams are going to play those two to their advantage against our young corners. Because if you look at it, they can go 12 personnel, right? They can go heavy. And when they go heavy, the Bills have a decision to make. And do they keep Taron Johnson on the field in nickel, where we've seen them get burned in the running game before? Or do they bring Terrell Bernard, this new toy they have to play with, 3rd-round draft pick, onto the field? If they bring Bernard onto the field and take Taron Johnson, the best corner on this team right now with Trey White out, off the field, now you have Dane Jackson lined up against Allen Robinson, and you have a rookie lined up against Cooper Kupp, or you have Dane Jackson lined up against Cooper Kupp and a rookie lined up against Allen Robinson. They can do that play action stuff. They can sort of get the matchups that they want against these young, inexperienced corners. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Bills play it. I know Greg Tomsett and the Cover One guys earlier this week said, expect a lot of zone, keep things in front of them, just tackle, make sure you're wrapping up. That's going to be the big talking point from all the coaches this week's probably. And it's going to be a bend but don't break type of approach for the Buffalo Bills going up against Robinson and Kupp. So that should be real interesting. Eric Kinsey comes in and says, "Go Bills. It's my first pregame with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us,
Welcome.
Eric. Hopefully you like what you see. If you guys could please, number one, smash that like button, helps us with the algorithm. And number two, if you know somebody that you think might enjoy this pregame show or our show on Monday nights, hit that little share button, copy the link, text it to them. Let's get people in here. Let's get the Bills Mafia community in here, and let's grow this thing organically. The best thing, the best thing you can do if you like the show to help us out is to just share it with somebody you think might enjoy it. We love having Bills Mafia here in the comment section. Speaking of the advantage that they have, the wide receivers, to me, this screams, obviously, Hyde and Poyer, number one. Like, those two can make up for some shaky corners if they're playing their best. It's going to be interesting to see Poyer coming off that injury. But the defensive line, that sticks out to me the most, especially with a younger player like Coleman Shelton at right guard. Like, I feel like our defense has a chance in this game. Our defensive line has a chance in this game to stuff the run and to wreak havoc on the quarterback. And that could offset the tactical advantage that they have with these two wide receivers. What are your thoughts on the importance of this defensive line? And do you think they're going to step up and we're finally going to see that defensive line that we expect year after year, makeover after makeover? We're finally going to see it.
Well, Andrew Whitworth's gone, right? The This isn't the same Rams offensive line that they've had for the past couple of years. I mean, I do like No Boom. I do think that they have a solid offensive line, but it's not insurmountable. And to be honest, we've been hearing and we've been talking, we're not innocent in this either, about how great this defensive line has been looking based on reports at a training camp, based on our own guys going to practice and seeing these guys, the total retooling, the athleticism, the new athleticism, the youth now to pair with Von Miller as a premier edge player, a guy that can actually finish and get to the quarterback. There is a lot of expectation on this defensive line to perform this year after two, we'll call it maybe average to, I'll even give it above average seasons. I'll call it average for the last 2 years. And I think they're up for the task because all the reports out of camp were early on were like, oh, the defense line is dominating. The defensive line's dominating. We've seen good defensive line play in the preseason from this group. If the Bills can get pressure, if the Bills can get in the backfield, and I'm not even talking just on passing plays, I'm talking about disrupting the running games as well, because that's going to be huge as well. Put the Rams in third and long situations so you're not having those bend but don't break 13, 14 play drives that kill you, but maybe, 4 or 5 play drives, 3 and outs, maybe 1 first down. This defensive line is going to have to set the tone, and knowing they're going against LA and knowing how much Aaron Donald on the other side gets all the accolades, and rightfully so, for his contributions to their defensive line, I think this defensive line is going to come in tonight and play with a little fire. And the X factor being Von Miller, obviously going up against his former teammates, who he still loves, but wants to prove, I think, to LA and to the national community that the Bills got what they paid for with Von Miller. And I see some comments in the comment section about, do we overpay? Tonight, the lights are on. And so,
have you been on social media and seen, because every beat reporter was posting a picture of it. Anyone that was on the sidelines was posting a picture of it. Von Miller's pregame attire.
I did not see it. No,
he was wearing a Bruce Smith t-shirt.
Oh,
like a 90s throwback Bruce Smith t-shirt out on the field. Whew, it was a sight to behold. Randy Prokes comes in and says, 2 of the best entertainers on YouTube with great chemistry. Looking forward to watching you together again this year. Thank you, Randy. Always appreciate you and everyone in the comment section. Let's hope we have a good year. Someone in the comment section was saying they hope for a shootout tonight. It's gonna be an historic game. I want the Bills to score a ton of points. I don't want to see a shootout, because if there's a shootout tonight, that means our defensive line wasn't what we paid for, right? So as fun and entertaining as it might be, I don't know if my blood pressure could handle a shootout tonight. I would like only one side, the Bills side, to be putting up some points, but obviously can't always get you on. A W is a W. If we can walk out of here, I'll take it however I can get it. Let's transition now here to the Bills offense versus the Rams defense. Looking at this Rams defense, they have solid starters throughout their entire defense. However, they are lacking depth, especially along the defensive line, which is where you typically rotate, their starters are good. Like Alshon Robinson, Greg Gaines, and Aaron Donald up front. They got Leonard Floyd rushing from the edge. They have Justin Hollins and Terrell Lewis, who are younger guys, haven't really produced much. They're going to have to step up for the Rams. Linebacker, they have Bobby Wagner, the experienced veteran coming over from Seattle to go along with Ernest Jones, the young guy from South Carolina, one of Randy Harmon's favorites, who really showed up last year and is a good quality linebacker in this league.
Yep.
And then they have Jalen Ramsey. They're bringing Troy Hill back after a down year last year. I forgot who he was with last season, but he didn't play well and he came back to LA. And they got David Long, who's a pretty solid nickel corner there for them. And then at safety, they got Taylor Rapp, Jordan Fuller to be rotating in and out, and Nick Scott as well. So really good starters there on the defense. The two names that stick out, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and to another extent, Leonard Floyd and Bobby Wagner. I just want to start with Aaron Donald, and let's get this out of the way. How in your head is Cam Hayward's week 1 performance in 2021 against the Buffalo Bills when thinking about having to face Aaron Donald here in just under an hour?
It's not good, man. I mean, this is what, Rob Quinn wrote about this in one of his key matchups, right, on the Cover One Pass article. Like, the number one thing for our offense against their defense was, how is our interior O-line going to hold up against Aaron Donald? You're not going to stop him all game, right? He's going to make a play or two here or there, but you've got to weather that. Much like I talked about with Tyrann Mathieu and the Chiefs, when he makes a play and he gets that emotional charge, right? That emotional uplift, and like, he just kind of electrifies the crowd. And I mean, obviously that's to be seen because we don't know how many Bills fans are there, but point being, Aaron Donald making that play, getting that emotional charge into that defense is not something you want to see if you're the Bills. So limit his, like, he's going to get some plays, but limit the impact, right? Limit the negative impact of those plays from Aaron Donald. And this offensive line really needs to reflect back on how, I know it's not all the same guys, but they need to reflect back on how that week 1 game went last year against the Steelers, and how maybe they underestimated that Steelers defensive line. They shouldn't have, and they shouldn't underestimate this Rams defensive line either, led by Aaron Donald. So they've got to be ready. And they cannot, especially early in the game, they've got to get some first downs and kind of try to, like, just stave off that sort of early, adrenaline from that defense. So yeah, Bate and Saffold were in our guards last year. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
They will
it's
be
not
tested.
The same.
We will figure out.
But we're going to find out how good Ryan Bates is
as a right
guard. And, Saffold, we know his strength is run blocking. So how is he going to hold up on that interior pass rush?
Because
will be interesting.
Last year, when Ryan Bates went on his heater at the end of the year, he was sandwiched between Deion Dawkins and Mitch Morse. Now he's sandwiched between Mitch Morse and Spencer Brown, who hasn't had a lot of time this offseason to play. And who knows, you could see some David Questenberry as well. So my guess, if you're the Rams, you're probably testing Ryan Bates early on. And it'll be really interesting to see how he responds. Jalen Ramsey is the other big name. We've spoken at length about the show. Why did Gabriel Davis go off against the Chiefs? He went off against the Chiefs because the Chiefs did everything in their power to shut down Stefon Diggs, and Gabriel Davis proved like he's a dude that you have to worry about as well. Jalen Ramsey has the ability to shut down Stefon Diggs on his own. I'm not saying he's going to, but he has the ability to. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Rams focus on Stefon Diggs. Do they leave Ramsey out there on the island? Who wins that one-on-one battle, Steph Diggs or Jalen Ramsey? Do they give Jalen Ramsey some help? And all of that will play a role in, I think, how big of a game Gabriel Davis has. Because if they go one-on-one and with Jalen Ramsey, don't give him any help, Stefon Diggs will probably get his. But that could limit what Gabriel Davis does on the opposite side. So it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of factor or what kind of role or how the Rams attack the Bills receiving core with a weapon like Jalen Ramsey. What are you expecting from the Rams here? And what do you expect from that Davis-Diggs combo?
Well, I do expect Ramsey to be on Diggs almost exclusively the entire night. I mean, that's my expectation, right? And we'll see if that plays out. But this is going to kind of lead into a little foreshadowing of who my take me higher player of the game's going to be. I won't get to it right now, obviously, but it is going to be, outside of Donald versus the Bills interior offensive line, maybe even a more flashier matchup, if you want to call it that, will be Diggs versus Ramsey. Ramsey is a corner that is obviously one of the best in the league, maybe the best in the league. And I really respect Jalen Ramsey's game because he's literally the guy that has zero memory, right? Like if he has a bad play, it does not phase him at all. And so these are two absolute alphas that are going to be matched up against each other. And while I don't expect Stefon Diggs to get completely shut down and shut out, I wouldn't be telling the truth if I said, hey, like Diggs is going to go off and have like 120, 150 yards tonight and a touchdown. Like I don't expect that either. So I do expect it to be Ramsey on Diggs exclusively for a majority of the night, and to be seen whether they give him any help or not, because I think they're going to want to shade the help, honestly, to the opposite if they have their choice.
And a really interesting comment here from Eric Kinsey. He says Ramsey will cover Davis and the Rams will slide coverage to Diggs. So a little prediction there. That is something that would be really interesting to see, and see how Davis responds, see how Steph Diggs responds. Kenny Riggleman with a great comment. Cromer hopefully has a plan for Donald to neutralize him. I like that. That thought never really crossed my mind that Aaron Cromer was the offensive line coach across from Aaron Donald for a couple of years there. So that's a really interesting statement there from Kenny Riggleman. Didn't even think about. Last thing here before we get to the special teams and our superlatives. The Rams, and they've been talking about this all week on all of the different Cover One pregame shows. Anthony Prohaska, Kendall, Greg, Eric, Aaron, they've all been doing a great job. The Rams were sort of the inventors of this two deep safety look, sort of forcing quarterbacks to check the ball down, forcing teams to try to run the football, et cetera, into light boxes, et cetera. They're sort of the founders of that philosophy. They're the ones who really started that. If that is the philosophy they choose tonight against Josh Allen, that's going to leave the middle of the football field open. So we could see more runs today than we expect with guys like Devin Singletary, 12 personnel, maybe get some Tommy Sweeney out in the field or Reggie Gilliam out in the field. And it also could spell a big game for James Cook, Dawson Knox, Isaiah McKenzie, Jamison Crowder. Having some savvy slot players, like having a savvy slot player like Crowder, that might have been a weekly decision this week over Shakir, because that middle of the LA Rams field might be open. What are your thoughts on these two high looks we could see from the Rams and how the Bills might want to try to attack it?
Well, you hit on a key point right there, and another key point, and Bruce and I were talking about this earlier on social media, Zach Moss being active, right? And so now if you're the Bills and you're seeing this too high look from the Rams and you're seeing light boxes all night, all of a sudden now, like, okay, yeah, you can maybe split James Cook out, let him roam the middle of the field as a receiver, and maybe Devin Singletary and Zach Moss now get a little more run in the run game than maybe we expect. Now, we've said this multiple times, and a lot of times it never it doesn't turn out that way, but it's not a surprise then if you also consider Zach Moss being active in this scenario as well, because, I mean, especially down in the red area, if you're splitting James Cook out wide, trying to get him over the middle of the field, all of a sudden, if you got the middle of the field and you've got James Cook, Dawson Knox, and you got maybe, Zach Moss or even Josh Allen with the ability to run into those light boxes, I think that it looks, at least on the surface, like maybe a strategic move by the Bills in that regard based on the opponent. So as Greg said, and as Aaron said as well, like maybe we should not read too much into the inactives list tonight as this being a potential trend for future weeks, but a week-to-week decision, knowing how good 1 through 53 are. I mean, there's going to be 5 that are inactive. So Brandon here says Knox going to play with some emotion in the fat wallet, big game for him, and he could be a huge benefactor as well.
He said in his press conference earlier in the week before they announced his extension that like his brother's going to be watching this game. So expect a guy like Dawson Knox to play with a lot of emotion tonight, and that it could get very emotional in the game for him and Josh Allen. So that'll be something to keep an eye out for. All right, before we head into our superlatives, and for those of you who have never seen an Air Raid Hour pregame show, prepare to be amazed when we get to these superlatives. Amazed or turning off the channel. I don't know what you're going to do. You're going to do one of the two. But special teams here. Tyler Bass versus Matt Gay. That's kind of a wash. I think they're both solid NFL kickers. Sam Martin versus Riley Dixon. I don't want to call Riley Dixon bad, but he's not good. Slightly above Matt Hawk. So I think the Bills might actually have a punting advantage there. But not that I think it's going to matter in a game like this. Maybe it will. And now it leads us to the return game, which is where, like, no offense, this could be a close game. And the Bills could have shot themselves in the foot by not playing Khalil Shakir. There's tons of things behind the scenes we don't know. Like maybe Khalil Shakir was inactivated this week because he muffed a ton of punts in practice, for all we know. But the Bills need to make sure that they're not only getting a pop in the return game, but they're just securing the ball. Like they're not turning the ball over, shooting themselves in the foot, making mistakes. We know who's returning the ball for the Rams. It's going to be Brandon Powell. Maybe you might see Kyrene Williams on a kick return, but punt return is going to be Brandon Powell. The Bills, we don't know. It's going to be a surprise. So what are your thoughts on special teams as a whole? Like this is going to get interesting.
It's going to get interesting. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said securing the ball. Like to me, that's the number one thing. When you have Josh Allen and leading your offense, like you just got to give him the ball back, as Jordan Poyer has been saying all week, right? We just got to get 17 the ball back. So I don't care if you get the ball on the 25 or the 35. I don't really care at the end of the day. I really don't. So number one thing is retaining possession. Keep the ball, secure it. And so I think that's why you might see a guy like Crowder back there just to secure those punts. On kicks, you literally have no risk, right? If you just let the ball go and it goes into the end zone, you don't even have to touch it. You're guaranteed to get the ball at the 25. So kick returns, I'm not so really worried about. It's punt returns that are really the focus. One, you got to force the Rams to punt. You got to force the Rams into punting situations. Don't even give them the option to go for it. And you've got to secure the football. So I think that I wouldn't be trying to get too fancy necessarily on punt returns. I know you mentioned like it could be a big factor in the game as far as like maybe a big play or two, but I'd still rather trust Josh Allen to get me that 10 extra yards than a punt return and possibly fumbling the ball. So that's just my philosophy.
We got Richard Rush saying, I'm nervous. AF, y'all. I'm with you, Richard, where I think we're all pretty nervous right now. And let's calm those nerves with some Buffalo Bills, LA Rams pregame show, air raid hour superlatives. So anyone who's ever seen the show knows that the back half of our pregame show, the last 20 minutes, we give out some superlatives. So we're going to be walking through and we're going to be giving some pregame sort of, some fun, lighthearted predictions, some serious, some lighthearted. It's all masked in the lightheartedness like we do here. Last year, we always lead off with our take me higher player of the game. And that is the one player who needs to step up, and show out for the Buffalo Bills in order for us to win the football game. Typically, it's a star player that we choose for this award. Which one of our star players, our alphas, has to step up for us to win this football game? The one caveat is we're not allowed to pick Josh Allen. So we're not allowed to pick Josh Allen. He is the weekly everyone's choice for Take Me Higher. So we take him off the board and we challenge ourselves to pick someone new. Now, we always used to play a fun little clip from the band called Creed, singing the song Take Me Higher to lead this segment. However, YouTube is no fun, and they've recently been copywriting us and dinging us for using Creed music in our show. So we had to pivot. And I'm going to play the clip here in a moment. Maybe you've seen it on Twitter. I posted about an hour ago, but you might hear a familiar voice singing the Take Me Higher player of the game theme for us. I'll tell you who it is after we're done rolling the clip, but we want to thank him so much. Here it is, our Take Me Higher player of the game introduction.
Can you take me higher to a place where blind men see?
For those of you who couldn't tell, we want to thank Bruce Nolan, Bruce exclusive from Buffalo Rumblings, for taking time out of his day to record that for us. I sent him a text about 2 months ago. I said, weirdest question you're ever going to get from me. Can you sing the chorus to Take Me Higher from Creed for me? And I just needed him to sing it to me. Like I just needed him to sing it and send it to me. And I was going to put the backing music into it. The man, he took a whole day. He put the background music to it and all that stuff, made my life super easy. So thank you, Bruce, for that. Truly, just the nicest person in Bills Mafia. No offense to all the other nice people in Bills Mafia, but thank you, Bruce, for that. So take me higher player of the game. Comment section. I want you to tell me who is the take me higher player of the game, the 1-star player that needs to step up outside of Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills to win this football game. And Dave, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I kind of hinted at it earlier. Jalen Ramsey's going to be matched up with Stefon Diggs, I believe, for most of the night. I think on the bright lights, we saw the last time this guy was on the field, just left an absolute mark, set an NFL record, 4 touchdowns in a playoff game. I think it's going to be Gabe Davis tonight as the take me higher player of the game. And with Ramsey on Diggs, I think Davis is going to be a focal point of the offense tonight. And there's been a lot of buildup around Gabe Davis this offseason, the preparation that he's put in. You saw the recent video the Bills released of him and with his trainer and all the work that he's putting in, down to like the individual meals he's eating, getting his nutritionist to live with him and all of these different things. And you can tell he takes this role very seriously, and you can tell that he is ready to kind of be that guy next to Stefon Diggs and not be sort of a rotational type player like he's been the last couple years. So for me tonight, it's Gabe Davis. It's your time to shine. Show the world that Chiefs game was not a fluke, and really that you are ready to take the place as the true sort of 1B to Stefon Diggs.
That's a great one. I was surprised. I thought you were going to go Dawson Knox, but Ranton Lee comes in and says Dane Jackson. Stosh64 says number 49, meaning Tremaine Edmonds. Chief comes in with Von Miller, Benford and Elam, Groot, Epinesa, Reggie Gilliam. I think that's more of a wild card. I think that'd be more of a wild card. But yeah, a little breaking news from Jason Crowder fielding punts out there. So that'll be interesting. I don't think he's done it in like 3 years. So that'll be he used to be pretty darn good at it. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see Jamison Crowder returning punts for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills were hiding it. Look at that. The Bills were hiding something for the regular season because all preseason had been Khalil Shakir. And there certainly were plenty of opportunities for Jamison Crowder to do it. My take me higher the player game. I was so going to go Dawson Knox, but I thought you were going to go Dawson Knox. I think with those 2 high looks, playing for his brother, new contract, all those things, I think Pops Mafia is spot on to be picking Dawson Knox here, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. It wouldn't shock me. It'd be a great, great story. But I'm not going to go Dawson Knox because I honestly thought you were going to go with him. So I sold myself on another guy, and that guy is Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver coming into what is now his 4th season. He's got Von Miller to play off of. He's got a bunch of other good interior IDLs to play off of. He's got Gregory Rousseau next to him as well. He's going up against Coleman Shelton. Listen, no offense to Coleman Shelton, who played 2 games last year as a spot starter and didn't embarrass himself. If Ed Oliver can't go off against Coleman Shelton, we have a problem. He needs to stuff the run. He needs to wreak havoc on the quarterback. He needs to make a splash play, make up for that experienced cornerback room that the Buffalo Bills are putting out there. So I am going with Ed Oliver as my take me higher player of the game. All right. Thank you so much for the kind words in the comment section. People are saying, hit that thumbs up, smash that like button. We would really appreciate if you do. Helps us with the algorithm. We got 230 of you in here. Hopefully we can grow it a little bit before we get right up to kickoff. We'll probably take this to just after 8 o'clock and then give you guys a chance to go and experience Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. My favorite part about NBC primetime games, and this was the case last year with the Saints game, the HD like 5K camera like angle. Oh, it's just the sexiest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like just football players in an HD cam, especially Josh Allen. Like, come on, like it's insane. The gif of Josh Allen from the Superdome last year, like in the pregame warmups, it's incredible. So I definitely want to duck out here at like 8:05 to go watch some of that 5K HD pregame shots for that game. But wild card player of the game. So for those of you who don't know, every week we pick a surprise player that's going to step up, make a play or two that's going to help the Buffalo Bills get over the top. So we have our wild card player of the game.
Guys, why aren't the brakes working? Because I cut the brakes! Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
So again, I warned you, if you've never seen this pregame show before, we get a little weird. But who is your guys in the comments section? We've already got Spin coming in saying Benford's going to be his wild card. Let us know. We'll read them off. And Dave, who's your wild card?
It's probably a little more than a wild card, but it is a wild card. He's a rookie, first game in the NFL. Bills maybe been hiding some stuff on how they're going to use him. Got some action in the preseason, not a ton, but we've been hearing a lot during the summer how this guy just makes plays. And so my wild card player tonight is going to be James Cook. I think that some of the same reasons you mentioned why Dawson Knox is going to, he's going to have opportunities. I think James Cook will as well, right? Slot, lining up in the slot, whether it's lining up in the backfield and maybe running some arrow routes over the middle of the field. This is a new toy for the Bills. This is a new toy for Ken Dorsey as the new offensive coordinator. And I want to see the Bills add a wrinkle here into the offense and show it off on national TV tonight against the defending Super Bowl champs. Like, you don't have to empty the holster per se, but like, let's show some creativity tonight. And I think James Cook can be a real benefactor there, especially over the middle of the field. So give me James Cook as a wild card player tonight that really steps up.
The Ken Dorsey love at the end of this game could be at an all-time high if the Buffalo Bills get a little creative out there and put up some points. Like the Ken Dorsey hype will be off the charts if the Buffalo Bills can do that today. Pops Mafia comes in with Balon Spector, maybe make a big play on special teams. Brendan P, I like this one. Mitch Morse going up against Aaron Donald. Doesn't have to be flashy to be our wild card player of the game.
I like that.
Dominic says Singletary. We got a couple other ones. Jaquan Johnson from BFLO Mafia News. Maybe he rotates in a little bit with Jordan Poyer because he's coming back from injury. Maybe he makes a play on special teams. Ned agrees with you. He says James Cook. Eric agrees with you, says James Cook. Stephen Burns says Kyer Elam. Bills Mafia STF says Saran Neal. Maybe Saran Neal gets on the field a little bit when they go heavy as opposed to Terrell Bernard. Because part of Saran Neal's contract extension with the Bills was they promised to play him more on defense. So Patrick Brown,
much more.
Bobby Hart. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Dane Jackson from Caden. Sarah calls James Cook our Diet Debo. So that seems to be Tremaine Edmonds, Jamison Crowder, Sam Martin, a couple other good ones in there. Mine hasn't been taken yet, and I'm not surprised because this guy doesn't get a lot of love for Bills Mafia, and that is why I chose him. He was on a lot of cut lists this preseason, like a lot of 53-man cut lists, and I didn't understand why. My wild card player of the game is AJ Epinesa. I'm not going to say he's going to put up any flashy box score stats or force a fumble or anything like that, but I think he's going to be vital to what I'm hoping is going to be a dominant defensive line tonight, and I think we'll leave this game impressed, and I think AJ Epinesa will temporarily silence some of the haters and the critics that he has in the Twitter sphere. I think that AJ Epinesa is my wild card player of the game. All right, next up on the docket is our Respect You player of the game. That is the one player from the LA Rams that the Buffalo Bills have to respect in order to win this football game. And Dave, I don't know about you. I intentionally went away from Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp. I went away from those three. I think we both did. So we're going to mix it up a little bit. So in the comment section, we know Cooper Kupp exists. We know Aaron Donald exists. We know Jalen Ramsey exists. We were just trying to switch it up a little bit with our Respect Me player of the game here.
I pure, straight hate you. But God damn it, do I respect you.
All right, so we've already got some coming in. John Herring says Aaron Donald. BFLO Mafia News says Matt Stafford. Post Mafia says Saffold shaking a lot of Rams. So I said Stafford there. So who is your Respect Me player of the game? Who do the Buffalo Bills on this LA Rams team got to respect in order to win that football game?
Yeah, so obviously we just mentioned how the obvious names were kind of, we're kind of putting those to the side because it's very obvious. But it's a guy I mentioned earlier in the show, and it's Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson are obviously like the 1A, 1B kind of guys that you got to worry about on that Rams offense. But Tyler Higbee can do some damage too. And we'll see if the Bills are up for the task and defending over the middle of the field. We know that there have been at times where Tremaine Edmonds has struggled covering tight ends. There have been at times where we've been susceptible over the middle of the field as well. And with new guys in the mix like Terrell Bernard, like we'll see how the Bills can fare. I think that Tyler Higbee to me is a little bit underrated. I think that 2 years ago, he was one of the better tight ends in the NFL. And last year he was a little bit of a forgotten man. But I think that he has a chance to bounce back this year and kind of reestablish himself as more of a focal point and maybe a third option in this Rams offense behind Kupp and Robinson. So I would say we need to respect Tyler Higbee. As Brendan says here, cannot lose track of him with Kupp and Robinson out there. So it's going to be really important that you don't let a guy like Higbee ding you for too much over the middle.
Bills Mafia STF comes in and says Bobby Wagner. Caden comes in and says Allen Robinson. Eric Kinsey says, do they still have that running back out of Memphis? They do. It's Darrell Henderson, who Michael Patton says Henderson might have himself a game. I always liked Darrell Henderson. Injuries have sort of derailed him and Cam Akers. So those two will be in the lineup tonight. Higbee is another popular one. I'm going to the defensive side of the ball here for my selection. And I'm going with sort of the forgotten name along this defensive front for the LA Rams. And that's Leonard Floyd. He's a veteran pass rusher. And I think you're going to see a lot of Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald working off of each other on the right side of the Bills offensive line. You have Ryan Bates making his first career start, I believe, at right guard, a position he's a little foreign to. He's played it some, but I don't think he's played a ton of regular season snaps at right guard. And you have Spencer Brown coming back from that back injury, hasn't had a lot of snaps in the preseason. You're going to see a lot of stunts from Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd. They're going to try to confuse these two young players in Ryan Bates and Spencer Brown. You got to make sure, whether it's a running back or a tight end chipping, you're giving those two a little bit of help there on the right-hand side. I think you can trust Deion Dawkins and Roger Saffold to do their thing on the left-hand side. I think you got to help them out a little bit on that right-hand side. And I'm sure the Bills will. Because if somebody, a dope like me, can figure that one out, I'm sure the Buffalo Bills coaching staff can. Miguel L coming. I think Kyren Williams could be a real sleeper here. Like I said, I was this comes off of me watching 3 minutes of a Rams preseason game, but they mentioned in that 3 minutes that Kyren Williams did not take a single snap in the preseason because Sean McVay, finger quotes, has a plan for him in the regular season. So I think he's a guy that they could unleash today. It wouldn't surprise me if he led Rams running backs in touches today, but I wasn't about to give a rookie the respect me player of the game. So I wasn't going to give it to Kyren Williams there, but we mentioned him at the top of the show. All right, next, getting a little spicy here. It's okay to get a little outlandish here. We're going to give our hottest take from today's game, or for today's game, our hottest prediction for today's game.
Oh my God! We're having a fire sale! Oh, the burning! It burns me! Evacuate all the school children! Oh, mate! This isn't a fever! Sing, Gray! Can't even see where the knob is!
All right. So, Dave, what is your hottest take heading into this game here, Bills Rams? And people in the comment section, hit us up with your hottest take for this game.
Yeah, my hot take for tonight is the Bills are +3 in the turnover differential versus the Rams. I think they create multiple turnovers tonight. I think the defensive line forces maybe 2 of those. Maybe they get a pick. The secondary gets a pick. But I really like, as far as individual matchups go, our defensive line against this Rams offensive line. Stafford, he's a great quarterback. He's got very good pocket awareness. He's one of the best, but he's not the most mobile. So if the Bills can get into the backfield and they can hold up in coverage, you could see some sacks and maybe creating some big negative plays for that Rams team. So I really like the Bills going +3 tonight in the turnover differential. That's my hot take.
We got Pops Mafia coming in, so we're gonna put a little pause real quick on the hottest take, because the spiciest thing that I've seen tonight just came over the wire here from Pops Mafia. Josh's pregame speech to the boys in the tunnel. I don't need a lot, man. I just need everything you've got. Win on 3. Let me
brings
tell
a tear
you,
to your eye.
I wish I would have worn 2 pairs of underpants tonight's show. That's all I'm gonna say. Holy crap. That is an awesome thing to say heading out into the tunnel. I am now officially getting the goosebumps. I might be too hyped up to finish this show, but back to the hottest takes here. Brendan says Jalen Ramsey will get embarrassed by Gabe Davis. Swamp comes in and says Cook will go off in the second half. We said bring it in hot. And Skippy the Tub Rat comes in and says Allen has 5 touchdown passes and Cook rushes for
hot.
2. So that's 7 touchdowns. That's hot. My hot take is gonna be a little akin to Caden's here, where he says Bills have more rushing yards than passing yards. My hot take for this game is that the Buffalo Bills running game steals the show and they combine for 200 plus yards on the ground as a football team. The Rams will be in 2 high looks. They are a 2 linebacker team at heart. I don't even know the names of their third linebacker. Their third linebacker is Christian Roseboom, Jake Hummel. No, they're not putting a third linebacker onto the football field. I think the Buffalo Bills could have some success on the run, against the run. I think the Bills will test the Rams on the ground. I think Cromer effect pays an early dividend for the Buffalo Bills. And the talk of this game isn't Josh Allen, it's the Buffalo Bills running game. When all
3
is said
running
and
backs
done.
active. They're all active. So
technically 5 running backs are
5,
active.
yeah, technically, yes.
Because actually at 4, but like when I saw the Bills roster, it said running backs 5. I was like, what the heck? But Tywan Jones was 4 and Reggie Gilliam apparently counted as 5. So when I saw that, I was like, what is going on here? But some more hot takes coming in. Les Brown says Groot 3 sacks. Jason Taylor says Keenan plays the fourth quarter because we're blowing out the Rams. I hope so. That would be great. That would really, really, really make my nights. Ned Ryerson says Aaron Donald is neutralized. That is 100% a spicy take with how good Aaron Donald is. And Stafford, I can't speak tonight, will be benched in the third quarter, says Y_. So some spicy takes coming in. Always appreciate that. All right. Final segment of the show here. Our game predictions. What do we think is going to happen?
We're sending you back to the future.
Back to the future! Back to the future! Back to the future! Back to the future! Back to the future!
Back to the future. All right. So that last one always gets me. I don't know why. Dave, what is your paint a picture for us? What is your prediction for this football game? Give us your score prediction in the comment section. Maybe post a little summary for us and we'll read those off as well as we head out of here tonight.
Yeah. So the closer we get to the game, the more I'm just feeling like the Josh Allen effect is going to take over in this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I'll say that. I do think it's going to be a pretty tight game. The Rams are a very good team. I do think the Bills will win, and this goes against my sort of when I laid out my 17-game prediction on Twitter. Just call me Colin Cowherd right now because I'm flip-flopping, and I'm going to predict the Bills winning tonight. I do think it's a close game. I think the turnover differential hot take is kind of going to be the difference. The Bills maybe don't capitalize fully on all the turnovers. Maybe they settle for a field goal or a 2 here or there, but ultimately they will come out on top. So I do have the Bills winning tonight. Final 31 Bills, Rams 27.
I'll tell you what, they're not going to win every game this year, but barring injuries to some certain key players, the expectation is that we should win every week. That's not the reality in the NFL, but that's the expectation. So every week I'm going to be picking a Bills dub. Just a spoiler alert, unless something drastically changes over the course of the season. But Andy Larson comes in and says Bills 28, Rams 24. Michael Patton comes in and says 33-27. Brendan P says 33-28. Caden K comes in and says 32-24. Ned Ryerson, where did it go? Ned, I lost it. He says 35-23. Sam Rivera, why are we playing it? Don't play like that, man. Don't play. Don't bring that juju into here with the 3-0 Rams win. Randy Proke says 31-28 Bills. Rams score late. Try in onside kick and we recover it to seal the win. Jessica Tennis says 38-17. Pops Mafia 31-24. We get Brendan P coming in here saying thanks for the great show, guys. # Let's Go Buffalo. Yes. Let's go Buffalo. I think the official NBC broadcast is about to get started because we're about to hit the 60-minute mark and we just dropped like 30 viewers. So I think things are about to get underway on NBC. Stephen Burns comes in and says 34-24 like that. Onside kick, typo from Randy Prokes. Bills 32-10 says thwomp.
I think
Bills
he's
Mafia
going for like
STF.
the Thwomp things from Mario, right? Like, I think that's what
There
he's
you
going
go. Bills Mafia STF says 37-24. I like this one. Skippy the Tub Rat. Bills by a billion. John DeMarchi, 51-3. I would love that. All right. So my game prediction: Bills 27, Rams 23. And here's the kicker. Rams get the ball back with one possession. Defense gets a little bit of a 13-second overtime redemption from that AFC divisional round game last year when they stopped the Rams from getting to the end zone to seal the 4-point victory on the final drive. So that's it for our show. Ned Ryerson, thank you for the super chat. Always appreciated. He says, thanks, guys. Great show as always. Thank you guys. Honestly, thank you guys so much. You make this show what it is.
It
It
was
wouldn't
great,
be
man.
a show without you. Just a little bit of house cleaning before we head out. We'll be live tomorrow at 9 p.m. as opposed to Monday at 9 p.m. to get you some immediate reaction to the Bills. And hopefully it is a celebration and not a therapy session tomorrow night. But either way, we'll be back with you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Don't forget the Cover One guys right after the game. Greg Tomset, Aaron Quinn, Anthony Prohaska. They'll have you covered with all the post-game stuff. And until next time, do I mean this more than I've ever meant it before in my entire life, outside of maybe when I said it before the AFC Championship game. Until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Are we having fun yet?